Good morning and welcome to Chad's Coffee Corner. So I'm back in San Francisco and it's been a long time since I've actually made my own cup of coffee. I was stuck in Korea for 3 months, so didn't really have my own time or equipment to make my own pour-overs at home. So now that I'm back in America, I scavenged good old Craigslist and bought myself something that I've been eyeing for a while, the Fellow Kettle. So I picked up some coffee from a local coffee roaster here in San Francisco, Andy Town. We're going to be making some coffee from Indonesia today, and while I'm making coffee, I'm basically just going to explain to you why this kettle, aka the Fellow EKG, something that is sought out for and kind of lusted at. Also, I just want to say this is not a sponsored video, but I am using a lot of Fellow stuff. Fellow is actually made in San Francisco. Got the Fellow Kettle, got the Fellow pour-over dripper, which I'll be using to make a morning cup of coffee. This kettle is expensive. It is $150, and you might be like, whoa, what? Why did Chad spend so much on a kettle? And I'm gonna explain to you why people would spend that much on a kettle in this video. Pretty much because it gives you so much control over the process of brewing coffee. And so with this kettle, you eliminate 2 factors, which is temperature control and a steady pour. I mentioned earlier I don't have a scale, but luckily this Fellow dripper that I purchased comes with a built-in measurement system. Filters filter into my dripper. It's time to really get into what makes this kettle hype. So I'll go slowly into the 4 different aspects of what makes this kettle so expensive and kind of sought after. The first one is that you can choose a very specific temperature, whether Celsius or Fahrenheit, to set your water at. And when you're making coffee, water temperature does have a huge impact on the flavor of the coffee. So Andy Town recommends a 1:15 ratio of coffee to water, as well as a 200-degree Fahrenheit water temperature. So with our Fellow Kettle, we can actually modulate the temperature to this exact 200 degrees. Turn the kettle, so you can see the Fellow logo goes on, and then with this knob, we're going to adjust it to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Of course, you can adjust it lower or higher, but 200 is where we're at. The other cool thing about this kettle is that it has a 900 milliliter capacity. So if you're making coffee for more than yourself, it has a function on the back to hold the temperature. Or maybe you were making a pour over and you kind of like fucked up as you were making your blooms or doing your circles and you want to start over. The water is going to be at that 200 degree temperature, just like how you started. Another useful component about this kettle is that it has a built-in timer. So how it works, basically you just want to press and hold this, and now you have a timer going off, and now you can keep track of the minutes and seconds of your bloom as well as your entire pour-over process. So the water is now at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and I put the hold function on so it can remain at 200 degrees as I continue talking. I'm waiting for all the water to drip through to get rid of the paper taste of the filter so that you really have a clean expression of these single origin beans. The more control you have over your variables, the better flavor you can extract from your coffee, and the better you'll be able to enjoy it when you start your morning. The first dot on this Fellow dripper is 20 grams. So the last important thing about this kettle that makes it worth buying is the counterbalanced handle. You have so much more control and finesse over these concentric circles that, this is kind of fun. This kettle is actually really fun to use. And so for anyone that already makes coffee already, you kind of know when you're using like a normal kettle, it becomes kind of hard to really finesse those concentric circles. I really like this kettle. The hold function is kind of cool too, because if you put the kettle back, the reed thermometer will tell you what temperature your water is at and reshoot it back up to that 200 degrees in this case. I didn't realize, but like, damn, white gets really dirty. So yeah, let's try out this coffee. So this coffee again is from Indonesia. The tasting notes are strawberry, red dragon fruit, and cocoa nibs. And this was roasted very recently, only 4 days ago, so the flavor is very fresh still. Now let's see how it tastes. Flavors are all subjective. Don't feel like you need to like believe what is written on here because everyone's tongues are different. But you know, Indonesian coffee, not bad. Maybe I mentioned this before, but one of the reasons why I like coffee is because many countries can grow it. And I didn't know Indonesia grew coffee, but apparently they've been doing it for decades. And that's kind of like the Philippines too. I didn't know the Philippines grew coffee, but they've been doing it for decades. And just to bring it back to this kettle, if you're like a prosumer and really enjoy coffee like me, and you have this kettle which controls, you know, exact temperatures, timing, more control, you're gonna get a lot more of that intrinsic natural flavor that really represents the terroir of the coffee. Better you can brew your coffee whether or not you have this particular tool or not, means you'll really be able to taste the maximum amount of flavor from these single origin roasted beans, which is what you want. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is not a sponsored video, but if you are super into coffee, definitely recommend Fellow. The Kettle isn't a bad place to start, so check it out, drink some coffee, explore coffee. If you're in San Francisco, check out Anytime Roasters, go in there and wear a mask. But yeah, cheers.